What's up everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm gonna be working on this 2014 Dodge Charger. I'm gonna be installing BBK headers. These are the long tubes. Alright, so I'm gonna start by removing the intake. I have to remove the alternator. I have to remove the coolant reservoir and the dipstick. So let's get started. Alright guys, so I'm gonna start by removing the intake. Then I'm gonna be removing the intake housing. I'm just gonna put it on the side. Okay, next I'm not gonna remove the coolant reservoir completely. I'm just gonna move it out of the way. Okay, now I'm gonna remove the alternator and the dipstick. Okay, before I proceed, I'm gonna disconnect the battery and I'm gonna jack it up so I can work underneath the car. Okay, so you should be able to get the bolts from this side of the bottom of the motor. See, I got one loose already. So I'm not able to take it off until I remove the alternator. I'm gonna get the other one and then I'm gonna try to remove the bracket and the dipstick, and I should be able to pull out the alternator. Okay, so I got pretty much the alternator loose, but before I remove the alternator, I gotta remove the serpentine belt. So here's the tensioner. Okay, so I'm gonna remove the belt. I'm just gonna put it on the side for now. Okay, so I already removed the alternator. It's pretty much loose. I'm just gonna disconnect the connector and loosen the wire. Here's the top bolt. I'm gonna remove the other two bottom bolts and I should be able to take it out right now. Okay, so there's the alternator. Now I'm gonna remove the dipstick. Okay, here's the dipstick. And that's pretty much everything you have to remove from the top. Should have enough space to work on it. And now let's go to the bottom. Okay, on the bottom I have to remove these pipes. They're connected to the catalytic converters. And then I'm gonna remove the manifolds. Okay, so I got the exhaust loose. It's pretty much loose on both sides. I'm gonna remove the catalytic converters. I already removed the nuts. So it was two of them on each side of the catalytic converters. I got those off. And then you have to loosen these ones. And then it should come off no problem. Okay, I got this off. Now I'm gonna go ahead and remove the manifolds. But first you gotta remove the heat shields. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the heat shields and then the manifolds. If not, I'll remove both of them at the same time. Okay, so these right here, these are the heat shields. I gotta remove them. It has two bolts, two on the bottom and then two on top. I don't think you see the other two, but they're on the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove those two on the bottom and then the two on the top, and then I should be able to remove the heat shield. If not, I'm gonna just put it on the side and remove the manifold. Okay, so I got the heat shield loose. I just pushed it to the side because you can't really take it off. There's not enough room. So I'm just gonna start taking the bolts off from the manifold, and then I'm gonna remove the heat shield with the manifold at the same time. Okay, so on the right side I got 4 of the bolts off. So this thing is already loose. I should be able to pull it out right now. So I'm gonna take it off from the bottom, and then I'm gonna start working on the right hand side. Okay, on the right side you're able to play with the heat shield, and you should be able to take it out. No, just play with it a little bit. You should be able to take it out. Alright, now I'm gonna remove the manifold. Okay, on the right hand side there's only 1 bolt holding the manifold. So the front 3 bolts on the manifold, you should be able to get them from here. You should have enough room to put a ratchet through here and loosen them. The hardest ones are the ones on the middle, on the top. Okay, so we're underneath, and you should be able to get a ratchet, and through the oil filter you should have enough room to run the ratchet to the bolts, and it should give you enough space to take them off. So I pretty much removed all of them. There's only, this is the last one holding it. So I'm gonna take it off and remove the manifold, and I should be ready to install the headers. Okay, so I took off the last bolt. I should be able to remove them, no problem. So there it is. Now it's time to modify the long tubes a little bit and install them. I'm about ready to install the long tubes. The only thing is that I'm not gonna be using this kind of flange. I'm gonna cut it and then weld this one on. So I'm just gonna make it like a bolt on, but it's gonna be flange to flange. All right, guys. So this is how they look when you put them on. So I'm gonna cut the ends of them. I'm gonna cut the ends of the long tubes, and I'm just gonna keep the flanges. I'm gonna keep the flanges, and I'm gonna weld them on, and then I'm just gonna connect the rest of the exhaust to the flanges. I had to cut the pipes, and I'm gonna be using flanges. So I'm gonna weld on these flanges and put a gasket on, and then I'm just gonna bolt them onto the long tubes. Okay, so pretty much I cut the end of this one and I welded the flange. I'm gonna do the same thing to this one. I'm gonna cut the end of it and weld the flange, and then I'm just gonna do it bolt on. So I'm gonna do the next one, and then I'll be ready to install them and bolt them on, and then I'll finish the rest of the exhaust. Okay, so I was able to put all the bolts through the bottom. See, like on this side there's room right here. There's room between the header and the starter. To get to the top ones, there's a space between the rack and pinion and the cross member, so you could get to the top ones. And then the ones on the front where the alternator is, you should have enough room to put the rest of the bolts. I'm gonna put all of them through the bottom, and I'm gonna tighten them through the bottom as well. So I'm gonna finish this side, and I'm gonna move on to the other side. Okay guys, so I finished bolting on the long tube header on the right hand side. I already put the dipstick already. So I'm gonna start putting the alternator now, and then I'm gonna go to the other side to do the other long tube. Okay, so I'm gonna do the alternator next, and then I'm gonna put the serpentine belt, and then move on to the other side of the header, the manifold. Okay, the alternator is in, the serpentine belt, so I'm gonna start working on the other manifold. Okay, so I'm pretty much done with this side. I got some of the bolts from the top, and then the rest of them you could do them from the top as well, the front ones, and the bottom ones you have to do them from the bottom. So I'm gonna put the coolant reservoir back on and the intake, and I should be ready to bolt on the exhaust and finish with the car. I'm gonna run it open header so you guys get an idea of how loud it is, and then I'm gonna bolt on the exhaust, and you guys should be able to see the difference. Okay, so I had to extend the oxygen sensors because the wires weren't long enough. So I already extended both of them. I'm gonna install them. Okay, so I ended up cutting the tips and welding the flanges on. So I'm just gonna connect the rest of the exhaust with the flanges, so it'll be bolt on. I welded some flanges on and a reducer, and then just welded it back to the tube. I did the same thing for the other side, and I had to extend the wires for the oxygen sensor because they weren't long enough anymore. Alright, so there it is, man.